Hello, I am Samyo Hangma Rai, and today we're going to read the chapter titled The First Olympic Games of Grade 10. So, let's begin the chapter now.
Okay, the first Olympic Games. In ancient Greece, there lived a man called Tantalus. He was half man and half god. His father was the great Greek god Zeus. One day, Zeus invited him up to Mount Olympus, high above the clouds, for dinner. When Tantalus received the invitation, he was very proud. Dinner with the gods, he thought. What a grand honor, said Tantalus, and climbed up to the very top of Mount Olympus in his embroidered robes to dine with his father and the other gods. They had an exquisite dinner together. The next morning, Tantalus lay in bed remembering the glorious evening. I must return the invitation. But what can I serve them? I must give them something I value more than anything. And then Tantalus had a terrible idea, a horrible one. He decided to take his son Pelops and chop him up and serve him as a stew to the gods. The gods, who saw everything, were furious. How could he do such a thing? They asked. He knows we hate human sacrifice. We will have to punish him. As a punishment, they sent him down to the underworld, where he had to stand up in water up to his neck forever. Meanwhile, the gods brought Pelops back to life. As a special present, they gave him a chariot with a team of snow-white horses that could run faster than the wind. Take these horses, said Zeus to Pelops, and find yourself a kingdom, for you shall become a great ruler. Pelops thanked the gods and mounted his chariot and galloped down the dusty mountain road and out onto the plain. As he came around a curve, he reined in his horses, for he saw an old man dressed in rags by the side of the road. Where are you going? Shouted the old man. I'm off to find a kingdom, Pelops replied. Then I have an idea for you, said the old man. I know of a kingdom called Elis, where a beautiful princess lives. Her name is Hippodamia. The man who marries the princess will inherit her father's kingdom. That sounds perfect, said Pelops. There's just one problem, cautioned the old man. If you want to marry the princess, you have to run a chariot race against the old king. If you win, you get the princess and the kingdom. If you lose, you get your head chopped off. So far, 12 people have lost. I won't lose, said Pelops. My horses can run faster than the wind, but the king's can run faster than lightning, warned the old man. I am not afraid, said Pelops. He thanked the old man and started off. After many hours, he reached the palace and wished to see the king. The servants led him to the king's chamber. There, he saw the beautiful princess Hippodamia sitting next to the king. Her black eyes sparkled like stars when she saw the handsome young visitor. Pelops bowed low before the king. I have come to woo your daughter, he said. My daughter and my kingdom are yours, the king said, if you win the chariot race. My horses can run faster than the wind, said Pelops. Mine can run faster than lightning, countered the king. He had never lost a race. His horses were magic and had been given to him by Ares, the god of war. Tomorrow morning at sunrise, the king declared, the race shall begin. Later that evening, the princess wandered out near the king's stables. She did not see the stable boy, who was brushing the horses' shiny black coats so they would look their best for the race in the morning. Hippodamia looked up at the starlit sky and said to herself dreamily, Oh, I do wish my father would lose the race just this once. Now, the stable boy, who had always adored the princess from afar, overheard Hippodamia. I can make her wish come true, he thought. After the princess went inside, he carefully took out the bronze pins that held the great wooden wheels on the chariot and replaced them with pins made of candle wax. Early next morning, the royal musicians blew their horns. Crowds of people gathered on the lush green fields of Olympia. The king stood in his chariot, his helmet gleaming in the sun. He was hardly able to hold back his snorting horses. Pelops stood in his chariot. His horses pawed the ground. The signal was given, and they were off. On my fiery steeds, shouted the king. Faster, shouted Pelops. The crowd cheered. The horses galloped neck and neck, faster than wind, faster than lightning. Now, thought the king, I will pull ahead and win. He whipped his horses harder, but instead of speeding up, they fell behind. Something was wrong. The wax pins had melted in the heat. Suddenly, the wheels flew off, and the king was thrown to his death. Of course, Pelops had won the race, so he would marry Hippodamia and rule the kingdom. But Pelops and Hippodamia were very sad that the old king had died. He had not really been a mean king, You see, it's just that he had loved his daughter so much he didn't want to give her away in marriage. So, before the wedding, Pelops and Hippodamia decided to have a great funeral feast in honor of the king. They invited heroes from all over Greece to take part in athletic games and races in memory of the king's great chariot race. Pelops decreed that such games should be held every 4 years till the end of time. And since the games took place on the fields of Olympia, they have been known ever since as the Olympic Games. Pelops and his lovely Hippodamia went on to become wise and good rulers of the great kingdom of Elis. True to Pelops's decree, the games were held every 4 years on the fields of Olympia, but around 500 AD, there was a great earthquake that knocked down the buildings and a huge flood that covered the fields with water and mud. They remained buried for about almost 1500 years. People forgot about the Olympic Games because no one could see the Olympic fields. Many people believed the fields and the games had never even existed. Imagine the surprise when 1875 archaeologists dug into the earth at the just right place and discovered the ancient fields of Olympia where the games had taken place so long ago. There was great rejoicing around the world, and with the help of a Frenchman named Baron Pierre de Coubertin, the Olympic Games were started once again. And today the Olympic Games continue. Every 4 years, athletes from all over the world come together to compete in a spirit of peace and friendship. The games are held in different countries, and an Olympic flame is always kept burning in the stadium until the games have ended. This flame is lit from the rays of the sun on the Olympic fields in Greece. So this is what the supposed Olympic stadium used to look like. The first Olympic Games. According to the legends, the Olympic Games began because of the incidents that had taken before it. So, the story starts with Pelops, Tantalus' son, who was sacrificed as a feast to the gods for inviting Tantalus for a feast at Mount Olympus. However, because the gods were against human sacrifice, Tantalus got punished, Pelops was revived, and at the same time, he was also given a chariot with wise horses which could run faster than the wind. So, the gods also told Pelops that he could rule a kingdom. So, he went in search of a kingdom, and he was informed of the kingdom of Elis, where there was a beautiful princess seeking people to marry her. However, the challenge was that in order to marry the beautiful princess Hippodamia, people had to win against the old king in a chariot race. Now, because Pelops had a chariot which could run faster than the wind, he was determined to challenge the king. So when he did so, Hippodamia, who was sitting beside her father, also fell in love with Pelops at that very moment, and then she wished that her father would lose so that she could get married to him. So when she made that wish out loud, a nearby stable boy who used to brush the horse's coat heard her, and because he had always admired her from afar, replaced the king's bronze pins with wax pins, ensuring that Hippodamia's wish would be fulfilled. So the next morning, when the race began, it was a tough competition. Both were neck and neck. The old king decided that he would win. However, because of the heat, the wax melted and the old king fell to his death. Pelops and Hippodamia, of course, got married. However, they were also saddened by the old king's death. So, to honor the late king, Pelops wanted everyone to gather every 4 years to compete in such games. The games continued on for a very long time until an earthquake and a flood concealed the Olympian stadium. And for 1500 years, the game did not continue. Many people believed that the Olympic Games did not really take place because of lack of evidence. However, in 1875, archaeologists discovered the ruins and the games once again continued. So, each 4 years, people still gather from all over the world the best athletes to compete and also to give continuation to the spirit of the Olympic Games. The Olympic flames are kept lit until the games end, and those very flames are brought from the Olympics field in Greece. Homework: why is it important to continue the Olympic Games? Do you think Hippodamia had a part in her father's death? Elaborate. And why are the gods against human sacrifice? How was your class today? If you have any feedback or suggestions, feel free to write to us at learning@dearwalk.edu.nb. See you in the next class with another lesson. Thank you.